Namaste and good morning, everyone. We'll start with the prayers. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Then we'll chant Mahamrityunjay mantra 3 times to pray for those who are in suffering. ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकम् इव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्. ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकम् इव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्. ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकम् इव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Welcome everyone. Today we will study the verse 211 of Bhagavad Gita. It is the verse where the actual teachings of Gita start. So I'll chant the verse and you repeat after me. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashocyan Anvashocastvam Prajna Vadansha Bhashase Gatasu Nagatasuncha Nanushocanti Panditaha. Now I'll chant the whole verse together. You can repeat along with me. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashocyan Anvashocastvam Prajnavadansha Bhashase Gatasu Nagatasuncha Nanushocanti Panditaha. We'll look at the word meanings. This is a nominal, Shri Bhagavan. Uvacha is a verb. Ashocyan is a nominal. Anvashocha is a verb. Tvam is a nominal pronoun. Prajnavadan is a nominal. Cha is indeclinable. Bhashase is a verb. Gatasun is a nominal. Agatasun is a nominal. Cha is indeclinable. Na is also indeclinable. Anushocanti is a verb. And Panditaha is a nominal. So Shri Bhagavan we have done quite a few times. this particular word. So whenever Lord spoke, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, we did this. We did this in the verse number 2 also, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. So we'll just take it from there. And same with Uvacha. Uvacha we have done many times. It's a verb. So Shri Bhagavan is a nominative singular, and Uvacha is a verb form, which means it's a past tense, third person, singular, parasmaipadi, and Vach is the root, which means to speak. Since it's a past tense, it means spoke. So Shri Bhagavan spoke. The Blessed Lord spoke. Ashocyan. This is like Raman, the second nominative, the accusative plural. So it's a accusative plural, masculine. Base word here would be Ashocya. And the meaning of this is those who should not be grieved for. So it's a long meaning. I'll explain to you later on. Anvashocha. This is past tense, lang lakara, a different tense as per Sanskrit. This is also past but lit. This is lang. This is second person, singular, parasmaipadi. And here the root is anu plus shuch. So it's a prefix or what we call upasarga in Sanskrit. Anvashocha, so anu plus shuch, and it means to grieve. So since it's a second person, singular, second person is you, singular is addressing to one person in the past tense. So the word itself would mean you grieved. Tvam, most of you probably know already. Tvam means you. It's a nominative singular. This one particularly doesn't have any gender. That means its form is the same no matter what the gender is. And here the base word is yushmad. Means you. Prajnavadan. This is accusative, plural. Just like Raman, we had Ashocyan, Prajnavadan, Raman in the same fashion. Masculine. So its base word is Prajnavada. The words of wisdom. That's what it would mean. Prajnavada. It's a compound word. So prajna means the wise, vada means the talk. So the talk of wise people of the words of wisdom. Cha is indeclinable means and. Bhashase. So this is lat lakara, second person, singular, parasmaipadi, and root here is bhash. To speak. So again, it's a present tense, second person and singular. That means you speak or you are speaking. It's a present tense. Gata soon. So as you can see, many of them are Ashocyan, Pragyavadan, Gata soon. They are all in the accusative plural, similar pattern. So there was a comment here, Bhash is Atmanepadi. That is indeed true. Sorry about that. So it's an Atmanepadi. Thank you. So it's a Bhash is Atmanepadi verb. Here the base word is Gatasu. So this is also a compound word. Gatah asuhu yasya saha. That means it's a bahubri compound, means Gata means gone, Asu means the vital breath or the prana. So one whose prana or the vital breath is gone means a dead person. This is accusative plural again, agata soon, very similar form except the word a. So this would become agatasu. So just the opposite of it. So gatasu means those for whom the prana is gone, dead, and agatasu means for those whom prana has not left or the vital breath has not left, means living. Cha is indeclinable means and. Na means not. Anushochanti, this is a verb form and it's a present tense. It's a third person plural, and here you see anushochanti or anvashochaha, both are same verb root. So and this is parasmaipadi. So here it's a third person, means they, plural. So they, third person plural, that means they do not and grieve, and because of not it becomes they do not grieve. So that's what it would mean. Panditaha, this is nominative plural, masculine, like Ramaha, it's an akaranta masculine noun. So the base word is Pandita and it would mean the wise person. So these are our word meanings or the word analysis. If you look at the sentences, they will go by the verbal form. So one is very clear, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. This becomes one sentence. The blessed Lord said, or the Bhagavan spoke. What did he say? So even though this is starting of this verse, but in Sanskrit, all the other verses which follow, it means that these are the speech of Lord himself. Until unless another person starts speaking, then that person's name again comes, like Sanjaya Uvacha or Arjuna Uvacha. But Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, whatever verses come after this, they will be taken as the speech of Lord himself. So here he is saying, Ashocyan anva shochaha tvam. This is one verb here, anva shocha. So you grieved. Anva shocha means grieved. To grieve, it's a past tense, second person singular, that you grieved. You grieved for those who should not be grieved for. That's what it would mean. Simply, the one sentence. Tvam ashocyan anvashocha. You grieved for those who should not be grieved for. Then another sentence is Pragyavadancha bhashase. Bhashase, you are speaking. It's a present tense. Pragyavadan, the words of wisdom. And you are speaking the words of wisdom. So Lord is addressing to Arjuna. Then another, this is the end of this another statement. Then another statement. Here we have another verb. Panditaha, the wise person, the wise people. Na anushochanti, they do not grieve. They do not grieve for what? Gatasun, agatasuncha. They do not grieve for the dead or for the living. So that means there is no cause of grief for the wise persons. So the meaning is really simple from a Sanskrit grammatical perspective. Now if you look at, this is the opening verse of the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. So when Arjuna asks that I want Shreyas, the supreme knowledge, because I do not know what else can take care of this sorrow which I am having, the grief. So it naturally starts with the topic of grief, this teaching. And Bhagavad Gita, the last verse of Bhagavad Gita teaching also ends in Ma Shuchaha Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Brajah Aham Tva Sarva Papebhya Mokshayashyami Ma Shuchaha. So that word Ma Shuchaha, the last words of the last, it's not exactly the last verse of Bhagavad Gita, but last verse is related to the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. That Ma Shuchaha means do not grieve. So the whole Gita, this scripture, is about how to remove the grief of the people. And because we all are subject to grief from time to time, it is relevant for us even today, after so many years. Because the topic is something which is of extreme use and interest for us even now, because we all are having grief from time to time and we want to get rid of our grief. That's very natural. So Tvam in this sentence, which is you, we can also consider that Lord is addressing us, that Lord is telling here Arjuna that you grieved for those who should not be grieved for. So that's a very profound statement, because Arjuna is grieving for the possible death of his loved ones, near and dear ones, because the war is about to start. And those are the people like Bhishma and Drona, who are his teachers, and he really loves them. He does not feel that life is worth living if they are not there. So he is grieving. Most of us have the grief for much less of a cause. So, but even for Arjuna, Lord is saying that you grieved for those who should not be grieved for. So here, Ashochan can be taken for the people or the thing or the circumstances. So you grieved over something which is not worth to have grief for. That's a very, as I said, it's a very profound statement, because what does that mean if I should not be grieving for? But here Lord is exactly not saying that you should not grieve, because that would become just an advice which cannot be followed. Nobody or none of us likes to be in the grief, but we have grief despite ourselves. Just like if somebody is angry, you cannot just say that you should not be angry. It doesn't work. The person knows already that anger is not good, and despite that he is angry. So you should not be angry does not help, or at least does not work. The person automatically is not able to take that advice. So that's why there is a teaching methodology here in Gita, instead of a simple advice, that he's just making a statement of fact here, not giving any advice right now. That you grieved for those who should not be grieved for, and you spoke the words of wisdom. So Arjuna, in the first chapter, when he is lamenting about the possible consequences of war, he quotes a lot of scriptural things. Some of the things are the ancestors, they will fall from their position. That's a belief in the Hindu scriptures. The women of the society, they will, in the absence of most of the men, they will be killed in the war. It will be a difficult time for the women who are remaining, and the social order will be disturbed. So like that, he was giving a lot of arguments that why this thing is not good. So Lord is actually referring here, on the one hand, you grieved for those who should not be grieved for, and yet you are speaking the words of wisdom. Then he tells the characteristic of a wise person. What is the characteristic of a wise person? The wise persons do not grieve for either the dead or for the living. So all the people can be categorized, either they are dead or they are living. So they do not grieve for any person essentially, or any situation or any circumstances. Gatasun and Agatasun can also be taken something which is past and something which has not yet come, means past and future. So wise people do not grieve about something which is past or something which has not yet come, which is future. Then you might question that maybe they will grieve for something which is in the present. The present moment, interestingly, cannot be the cause of grief for anybody. Our grief is always related to mental process, which is only triggered either by some memory of the past or some analysis of the future, some worry about the future. So here he is making a very wonderful statement that the wise people do not grieve. They have no cause for grief. The word for wise people, Pandita, it's an interesting word. There is a word called Panda. Panda means in Sanskrit, Sat Asat Vivekni Buddhi, the intellect which can differentiate between what is real and what is unreal. And that distinction between the real and unreal, one who can make, one who has that intellect, that person is Pandita. So it's not any intelligent person in general or any person of his having a knowledge of a particular subject matter. Like sometimes this word in English has also come, Pandita, sometimes it is used for a subject matter expert. And in India, it is generally used for priests or a person who in general knows more things. But here the definition the Lord is talking about a very specific characteristic of Pandita. The one who has this wisdom to know what is real and what is unreal. And that person has no confusion about it, that what is real, what is unreal. For such a person, there is no sorrow, there is no grief. So he is telling Arjuna that you speaking the words of wisdom, yet you are grieving. That is kind of contradictory. It doesn't make sense. That essentially what it means that you are not a wise person yet because you are grieving. So here the word shochya, ashochya, it's coming from shuch, the same root which we saw here for the grief, to grieve, shuch. It's coming from root shuch. Shochya means something which should be grieved for. And ashochya is opposite of that, the one as something which should not be grieved for. So that's where the shochya and ashochya. So in other words, there is nothing which can justify the grief. So this is the opening statement of the Lord. And this is not for consolation. Arjuna is grieving. Normally, when somebody is grieving, you would try to console them. You will not tell them that it is a foolishness. Generally, you will not say that you are a fool because you are grieving, so you are a fool. And because wise persons do not grieve. Essentially, that's what Lord is telling him indirectly, that wise persons do not grieve, and you are grieving, so you are unwise. Gurudev Baba also used to say, Baba Hariharananji, that men are educated fools. So they are having some knowledge in certain areas. We have studied the things, but we are fools in regard to the real wisdom because we are subject to grief. So the question immediately comes that what does it mean that there is nothing which justifies the grief? Does that mean that all my grief, all the causes in the world, whatever is happening, whatever has happened in the past, whatever may happen in the future, does not warrant grief? And how is that so? What does it mean that wise people do not grieve? So this, many commentators have considered that whole Gita, which is a scripture for removal of the grief, is just an expansion on this verse, because the ultimate idea is that one is not subject to grief irrespective of whatever the circumstances are. That situation cannot be achieved by making effort naturally, because however effort you make, you can always encounter the circumstances which are very unique. So it is possible only when there is a order of reality which we are either associated with, or we are ourselves that order of reality, which is beyond grief by its very own nature. So this is the knowledge of the self which Lord is talking about here, and he would expand upon this in the coming verses. So we'll go to the next verse. Verse number 12. So I'll chant this verse in the 4 quartets, and you repeat after me in your own place. Nattvaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadhipaha na chaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayamata param. Now I'll chant the whole verse together. Nattvaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadhipaha na chaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayamata param. So even though this is a small verse, it has a lot of words after splitting. Most of the words are very small and simple. So na is indeclinable, tu is indeclinable, ev is also indeclinable, aham is nominative pronoun, jatu is indeclinable, na again is indeclinable, asam is verb, na is indeclinable, tvam is a nominal pronoun, na is indeclinable, ime is nominal, janadhipaha is a nominal, na is indeclinable, cha is indeclinable, eva is indeclinable, again na is indeclinable, bhavishyama is a verb, sarve is a pronoun, vayam is a pronoun, ataha is indeclinable, and param is also indeclinable. So as you can see that most of the words in this verse, they are indeclinable, and many of them are repetitions. So even though after splitting the sandhis there are a lot of words, but essentially it is quite simple. So for indeclinable, all we have to have the meaning. So na means not, tu means it can mean but or also used for emphasis. Eva is indeed, aham is I. So this is a nominal pronoun. We have seen that earlier. Aham, it's a nominative, singular. This doesn't have any particular gender, and here the base word is asmad, means I, the first person pronoun. Jatu is indeclinable, means ever. Na means not. Asam, this is a verb form. It's a lang lakara, past tense. First person, singular. Verb is parasmaipadi. And the verb root is us. Us means to be. So here, because it's a first person singular in the past, it means first person singular would mean it is referring to I, and it is in the past, so I was. So to be, actually the meaning of this word would be I was. Awesome. Then again, na is a declinable not. Tvam, it is like aham, nominative singular. It's a second person pronoun, you. Again, na is coming not. So lot of word na is coming. Ime is it's a pronoun actually. So it's a pronoun. It's a nominative plural, masculine. The base word here is idam, means this. So because it's in plural, it would mean these. This is janadhipaha. This is also nominal, nominative plural, masculine. The base word is like ramaha, janadhipa, akaranta masculine, king. So janadhipa means king. Jana means people, adhipa means those who are having the lordship over the people, means king. Na again means not. Cha means and. Eva means indeed. Na means again not. Bhavishyama, it's a verb form, and it's a future verb form. Lut lakara, third person, sorry, first person, plural, parasmaipadi. Dhatu here is bhu, and it also means to be. So because it's a first person plural, parasmaipadi, first person plural in the future, it means we will be, we will be. That's what it would mean. We will be. Survey, it's a pronoun, nominative, plural, masculine, and here the base word is sarva, means all. Vayam is a pronoun, it's a nominative, plural. Again, this is like asmad, so it does not have any gender specific forms. So asmad means we. It's a first person plural pronoun. Ataha is indeclinable. So from this point, that's what it would mean. Ataha, from here or from this point. Param, afterwards. So let us try to split the verse in some components to understand the meaning a little bit easier. So one is like verb is coming here. Natve vaham jatu nasam. So asam means I was. And you see there are two negative indeclinables here, not, and there are two which are for indeed or for emphasis, tu and eva. And jatu is means ever. So if you say one with the jatu, that means never, not ever, never. So never it was that I was not there. That's what it would mean. So with a lot of emphasis, that never it was that I was not there. Aham na asam, I was not. So never it was the case that I was not. So it's a double negative. Generally in English also, when you have to emphasize something in really strong, you will use the double negative. So say that not that I was not in that room. That means I was definitely there. Similarly here, that it's never that I was not, or I was not there, or I did not exist. That means I always existed. So this is the lot of emphasis on that it was never that I was not there, or it was never that I did not exist. So this is the one sentence. So na tvam. So na tvam would actually take the similar kind of, it's continuing. So not you. In other words, never it was that you were also not there. So it is the connecting to the previous sentence, that never it was that you were not there. So that means you were always there. Na ime janadhipaha. This is another sentence. So not these kings. So again it means the same thing, that it was never that these kings were not there. So it was never that I was not there. It was never that you were not there. It is never that these kings were not there. Then he is again, this is another thing. Nacha eva bhavishyamah. And indeed, it is not that we will not be there. So that means we will always be there. And then sarve vayam atah param. All of us, sarve means all of us. From this point onwards means from in future, also we will be there. So here if you look at, essentially the fact which is Lord is stating is simple, that there was, I always existed, so did you, so did all these kings or all the people who are here, and we will always exist in the future as well. But there are a lot of double negatives to emphasize this fact. There are a lot of emphasis marks in this verse. So that makes it very, very strong emphasis that indeed that is the case. Why so much emphasis is required? Because that is not something our experience. If it is my experience, then I don't have to emphasize it so much. I already understand it. But my experience is that I am born on a certain day. I was not there before that. my experience is that I will also have an expiry date. That means the date when I will die, and I will not be there going from there. That is generally our understanding about ourselves. And also we extend the same understanding to everybody else. That's how it is for everybody else also. That people are born, they are living right now, so they were not there before that, before a certain time, and they will not be there after a certain time. Or in other words, we can say it's other way around, because we see the other people that way, that they were not there at a certain time. Now they are existing, and they will not be there after a certain time. I assume for myself also that is the case, because truly speaking, nobody has an experience of their own birth or own death. So I do not have any basis in experience to say that I was born on this particular date or I will die sometime in the future. Sometime in the future I will cease to exist, and sometime in the past I was not there. So that is truly speaking not our experience, but it is something that we have taken it for granted. It's kind of an assumption which we have not thoroughly looked into, whether this assumption is true or not, because truly speaking, nobody has experienced birth or death for himself. All I know for sure that I exist right now. Whether I existed ever in the past all the time, or whether I will continue to exist in the future, that is not an experienced fact. Yet we take our assumption that that's how it is as a factual thing. So that's why so much emphasis is required by the Lord. And he says not just about himself, because if he says, well, there was never ever a time when I did not exist, we can say you are the Lord, so that may be true for you. But then he tells Arjuna, so is the case with you, and so with all these people. And it's not that, okay, we might have always existed, but then death is coming, and after that we will cease to exist. And he says that is not the case as well. We will continue to exist from now on also. So that is a teaching, right, going into the heart of the immortality aspect of the self or the soul. For Arjuna, that was a major concern in the war, that his loved ones will die. And that was one of the major causes for the grief. And that is generally a cause for grief for almost all of us. If any one of our near and dear ones die, that's a huge cause for grief. That's almost universal. Death brings grief in its wake, particularly the death of the near and dear ones. That causes the grief. That's almost a universal cause for the grief. So you see, the Lord is saying that wise people do not grieve. They do not find any cause for the grief, either for the ones who are gone or ones who are still living. And this is another glimpse into that statement he's giving here, that why they do not find any cause for the grief, even for the death. Somebody has died or somebody has not yet died, because they know that existence has never changed. So wise man has this knowledge. This is the statement Lord is making, that it was never that everybody did not exist or they will not continue to exist. That being the knowledge, wise people truly do not have any basis for grief. So this is that's how the Lord is unfolding the teachings, slowly, and we'll see that as we move forward in Gita, how is he teaching Arjuna, and by that means to all of us as well, that why the grief is unwarranted in life. If you have to say one topic of Gita, that is one topic of Gita, that how to be free from grief, not for the temporary, just for the particular cause that I'm grieving, but the very basis of grief, that it just has no validation. So with this, I'll open it for the questions. You can send your questions in the chat window. So there is a question that shouldn't it be Anva Shochasi if Parasmaipadi second person? So this is related to here, Anva Shochaha. So if you look at this word, Anva Shochaha, this is a Lang Lakara, not present tense, where the Shochasi form would be formed. This is the past tense, Lang Lakara. So that's where this form, it will be Ashochaha. So Anu is the prefix, so Anva Shochaha with the Sandhi rule. So there is a question here. Seems like male domination started long ago. We know here that Sri Krishna is referred to as so masculine, but Panditaha could be female scholars. So in Sanskrit and probably in other languages also, masculine is used in the sense of generalization. So because you are using the language, one of the genders have to be picked up. Sanskrit, all the words fall in these genders, masculine, feminine, or neuter. So that's where here the masculine gender is used. Of course, it will mean that wise persons. And in Sanskrit, the gender, as you know, it's not related to the object itself. It's a grammatical gender. It is the gender related to a word. So definitely, Pandita would refer to even a female person, that she will also be beyond the grief. How do we understand Jatu to be ever? This is just an indeclinable word. Jatu. This is an indeclinable word, which means ever. This is so the simple word meaning. There is a question: Can param means always? It can. Param means, but here it's like ataha param, from this point onward, like in the future. So param has multiple meanings. One is also after, and here with the word ataha param, it means after this point or from this point onwards. So in the future, that's what it would mean. So there is a question: can you please repeat the meaning of what Sarve Vayam Ataha Param means? Is it simply reinforcing the sentence ever? So yes, in the sense that he is saying not that we will not be it, not that it will be that we will not be there, bhavishyamaha, in the future, and then he is basically saying yes, that we all indeed will continue to be exist from this point onwards. There is a comment from someone: the very first time I read the Gita, a Portuguese version, in 1992, on reading this verse, I felt I have always waited for the Lord to tell me those words. They are liberating statements indeed. Thank you for your comment. It is indeed very liberating to understand that our existence is not hampered by the death of the body. There is a question: how to get the experience that soul is eternal? So that of course is a big topic, and there are many paths. Here Lord is actually starting with the teaching of Jnana Yoga, what is normally referred to as Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga means that you understand something as it is. Experience means that there is something which comes and which goes. Like all the experiences by themselves are temporary. Experience has a beginning and an end. The knowledge itself remains with the person. So here it is explained more in terms of knowledge rather than in terms of experience. So you just see, like understand that that's how it is. And my experience, if it contradicts the statement of the Lord, that Lord is saying that I'm eternal and my understanding is that I'm a limited being, then how to understand, how to make sense of that statement? And there are other in the statements in the other future verses which will help to understand that statement. When we do certain spiritual practices, we may get certain experiences, and it is in the experience of everybody that those experiences are indeed, they come and go, they are not permanent. But the understanding arising out of that experience can be permanent. So if I understand the experience in the correct manner, that understanding can be permanent. So suppose somebody is really sending some beautiful flowers every day, and you are very happy, and you are maybe making some guesses that who could that person might be, because you do not, that person has not put his name there. And once, if you find out later on that it is the person indeed whom you really wanted, let's say in the case of a young person, if she wanted to marry somebody, and indeed that is the person who is sending her the flowers, which she thought was not likely earlier, then that the experience is already there of receiving the flowers. It's the knowledge that it is indeed that person. That knowledge is, so that knowledge itself is not an experience which comes and goes. That knowledge becomes a permanent thing, and that gives a tremendous amount of joy and freedom and liberation. So this is more of a matter of understanding, and that understanding can be helped by some experiences. So that's how it is. And as we go through the future verses and going forward, you will see that how Lord is unfolding this knowledge. So with this, we'll conclude the class. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you everyone.